stuff. It's the season.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hometown Cable, our program every Sunday, bringing you stories of what's happening in the North Country, tours, interesting people. My name is Bob Venn, Calvin Castine with the camera, and we found someone to give us a tour of Lake Placid. Sun isn't out, but the wind is, so our hair is going to be a little mussy. Have you seen this face here before? You probably remember. We got to remember back at Channel 5. You got to remember our Assemblyman, Chris Arthloff. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
And thank you for consenting to show us around Lake Placid.
Well, it's my hometown, as you know. I don't get back as often as I'd like, and I thank you for giving me an excuse to spend a few hours here at Lake Placid.
Okay. I thought that you were born on Channel 5 and were there until you became Assemblyman. Well, tell us a little bit about Chris Arthloff. In the background, by the way, is the Lake Placid High School. Is that what it's known here?
Yep.
High school?
Yeah. Where I went to school and graduated in 1965. I was born here. My father was born here. My grandfather moved to Lake Placid in 1900 to set up a tailor shop. Later on, as tailoring went out and men didn't buy custom-made clothes so much anymore, he and his two sons went into the dry cleaning business, and that's where that family was when I came into it back in 47.
Are they still in the dry cleaning business?
Dry cleaning business, Ortloff Cleaners is a thing of the past.
You better tell us the name. Oh, it is. It's not dry cleaners anymore, huh?
But the family was always involved. My grandfather was involved as a volunteer and as a supporter in speed skating events back in the teens and the 20s. He served on the hospitality committee for the 1932 Olympics. My dad was a ski jumper in his youth until he hurt his knee, and he didn't jump anymore, but he skied well into his later years. And my first time on skis was actually on my dad's shoulders before I could even walk, going down the mountain on skis. So fond memories here, and of course back there in that school, not only where I went to school, but where the 1932 Olympics began.
Right in front of that school?
Right in front of that school. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as governor of New York, on February 4th, 1932, opened the third Olympic Winter Games right here on that track.
Was Lake Placid very well known to the state of New York before 1932? It's always been known.
It was, and that's a good question you asked, because Melville Dewey, who was the state librarian and certainly is still famous today, the inventor of the Dewey Decimal System, founded the Lake Placid Club as a private club for teachers and educators to come. People, of course, teachers didn't make a lot of money in those days, and he thought that they deserved the kind of place that rich people had, where they could go away and reflect and think and relax. Of course, as years went by, the club itself became a place for rich people to come. But Lake Placid was very well known because of Dewey and the Lake Placid Club, and of course because John Brown is buried here also.
Yes. Okay, but 32 really brought Lake Placid to the world.
Put Lake Placid on the map.
All right.
Put Lake Placid.
And there were several people that became very well known. Your man that just passed away the past year or two here that ran the store downtown. The skater, can you give me his name?
I think you're thinking of Jack Shea, who's still very much alive.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought, okay, Jack Shea, yes.
Jack is still alive.
Okay.
One of his relatives did pass away. You
have
a good memory,
all right.
Bob.
But he won a couple medals, didn't he?
Jack Shea was the local boy, a storybook hero, 18 years old, a freshman at Dartmouth, when he won the 500 meters on the first day of the 32 Olympics, and then came back a few days later and won the 1500. Before that, a Lake Placid boy, Charlie Jutra, had won the first gold medal in the first Olympic Winter Games in Chamonix, France in 1924. So we had a pretty good history here. Speed skating was the sport in Saranac Lake and Lake Placid all through the teens and the 20s. More national and North American champions than any other town, and Shea was a product of that. But it was something for a young man of only 18 years of age to take on the best in the world and beat them all.
In his hometown.
In his hometown, in not just one race, but two races.
Yes, that's great, great. Well, tell us, how big a family are you from?
4 brothers. Well, it's 4 of us all together, a brother and 2 sisters. And all grew up here in Lake Placid. One sister still lives here.
Okay.
Another comes back like I do when she can, and my mom is still living here.
Okay. When you left here to go on to college somewhere?
Yeah. Went to RPI.
RPI.
Got a degree there. Went to the Air Force. Got out of the Air Force. Went to the University of Michigan to study journalism, and was working for National Public Radio for the affiliate there in Ann Arbor, and dreaming at that point of going to to Chicago to set up NPR's first bureau in Chicago when Lake Placid was awarded the 1980 Olympic Games. And several people from home called and said, we'd like you to come back and work on the Olympics, be the public relations director. Well, that didn't exactly work out, but they brought me back to town, formed an advertising agency for a few years while the Olympics were gearing up, and eventually became the chief of ceremonies and awards, not PR at all.
Wow.
Got into the pageantry, the flags. These flags you see in the background are flags that we erected here on this site under the department that I headed up in 1980.
Yep. Great, huh? Now, somewhere along the way here, you found yourself a wife.
Very, very, very much so.
Local?
A local girl, lived around the corner from me growing up, Ruth Mary Hart. Her dad was my family doctor, president of the school board. Went to the same church almost every Sunday. My brother and I would have Sunday noon dinner at their house, and our families would always get together for Christmas Eve. One house one year, the next house the next year. But all through high school, we never dated. There was no romantic involvement until I came back here to Lake Placid after graduating from Michigan with a master's degree. She was here, and we began to see one another in a different light, Bob. Well, we got married.
Her father probably said, listen, he's got good bones, he's sturdy and all this, huh? And I know that.
Well, I won't tell you all those stories, but they certainly approved, and we've had a great time ever since.
And you never strayed very far since. You've been right in the area.
Right in the area.
Children, you have 2 or 3?
2 boys.
Yeah.
Chris Jr. is 13. He's a hockey player. Plays here in this arena once in a while when Plattsburgh comes down to play Lake Placid. And my other son, Jonathan, is 10. He's quite a musician and
I thought
electronics whiz and everything
he's
else.
a videographer, too.
Yeah, you've seen him.
I saw him at the South Platte Field. He's putting in, he's got 2 things, a mixer going in, and he's talking between innings, and he's interviewing people. I said, who is that young kid? And my son-in-law said, that's Chris's son. I said, my God, he knew what he was doing. He really
sure
knew.
does. He
really
sure
did.
He's a preferred customer at Radio Shack, believe it or not. He's the one who gets the catalog. If I go to Radio Shack to buy a part or anything, and of course, you go in that store, they say, give me the last 4 digits of your telephone number, and I give it to them, and they say, Jonathan Ortloff. I say, no, I'm his dad.
All righty. Well, before we go a little further, we'll take a short break and we'll get right back. We're talking with Chris Hartloff, as you know him best, of course, from Channel 5, but recently, better known, of course, as our assemblyman, but you'll never forget him as our newsman and big smile.
Thanks.
Big smile. Chris Hartloff. First thing I got a comment about is a diploma. They didn't get medals, they got diplomas?
Oh, they got medals too. But a diploma is given to the first 6 places in the Olympics.
And
the first 3 get medals. So now this, of course...
Okay, we're in the museum, I should tell you, right? We're in the museum.
Yes, we're in the museum. This is a wonderful, wonderful facility. And, of course, what's on display here, Bob, is only a fraction of the collection. My wife, Ruth Mary, was the archivist for the 1980 Games, and she assembled all of the papers, all of the documents, all of the photographs, the films, the videotapes, and they're all stored in a temperature-controlled room back here, available for researchers.
That's
of course, that's the point of a museum, is not just to display, but for researchers. We're standing in the 32 area.
Right, and of course, here's the school. Right over here, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was right over here where we were up here in that last picture, and he mentioned President Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And this is where the opening ceremonies were right in the Oval.
Exactly. And the big picture over here actually is looking back toward where we were just before the break.
Yes.
Outside up
Okay.
there. The hill's changed quite a bit since then.
The best thing about, of course, having it at the school in the Oval is that the children locally get a week or two off.
Well, yes. The best thing about having the games at that spot in 1932 was that for years after that, Lake Placid High School had the best track in the North Country because they built their running track right on that well-graded field that they had made the skating oval on.
Yeah. You really have got to come here, and you can spend hours in here, of course.
Sure.
If you're so disposed, this kind of thing.
A parade coat
For the 32s.
Boiled wool,
Yep.
red, white, and blue. There they are up above, all wearing the coats, of course, the color there. And over here is the helmets that the bobsledders wore in 32. Not much protection, really.
Yep. You know, that's one thing I wanted to mention, that growing up in Lake Placid, with many of these people who were in the Olympics or at World Top were training here in Lake Placid. So you would rub elbow with these
Very
people
true.
as a teenager.
Very true. And oftentimes you didn't even know how great they were. You just knew them as the fellow down at the ski jump or the fellow at the skating rink. And until you got to be older, you really had no idea that this fellow who coached these figure skaters had coached Dick Button and Sonia Henney. Of course, I'm speaking about Gus Lucy, the greatest skating coach who lived right here in Lake Placid. And it's a great heritage for these kids. And this museum, I think, for the whole North Country is a place where you can come and really appreciate some of the marvelous things that have happened right here in our midst.
Well, just think of your former classmates, people 2 grades below you said, I used to see Chris Hartloff every day, never paid any attention to him, and now he's our assemblyman.
They still say they don't pay any attention to me. But you got a lot of good-natured ribbing from your friends, and that's how you know they're your friends.
Right. What are the flags of different countries?
These are the flags, as I look around, I believe these are the flags of the countries that participated in 1980. Yes, they are. We bought hundreds and hundreds of flags.
Look at the goalie's mask and you know how things have changed.
Yeah.
The gloves.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, my Lord, yes.
And of course, Sonia Henney became famous right here in Lake Placid.
She won her second of 3 gold medals right here in Lake Placid, and then after St. Moritz after Garmisch in 1936, she went to Hollywood and made a lot of movies. But she really made skating famous, and that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Lake Placid got on the map itself in 1932, but we also need to remember that the Lake Placid Olympics in the United States made winter sports popular. Skiing took off because of this, and the Sonia Henney movies, I think, were popular also because people got to see figures.
Now, this is the person we were talking about.
Jack Shea.
Jack Shea.
This is Jack Shea.
And very much alive, by the way. But
Jack's father, by the way, was assemblyman from Essex County in 1912 and 1913. And Jack grew up in a family very much committed to civic service, and he was the town supervisor for a lot of years.
You never could dream at 18 years old, huh? Right here locally, you're going to be in front of your own crowd.
What a story.
Right. And then, of course, now the modern era, and if you remember, you've seen so much on TV, who can forget the light tan jackets and the cowboy hats?
The U.S. team wore. Now, this was, what you see here mostly is the ceremony, and this is all the area that I worked on. Down here, this is a miner's lamp of the kind that are used today in mines and in the holds of cargo ships to detect the presence of explosive gases not explosive gases alone, but also the toxic gases, so that before people go into the mine or into the hold of a ship, they lower the lamp down, and if any of these dangerous gases are there, the flame burns up brightly, and they know not to go there. Old technology, but still today the best thing you've got for protecting yourself.
Instead of bringing a bird.
This is what you had to use to carry the Olympic flame across the ocean in an airplane. This is the only thing you can carry an open flame in an airplane without it risking explosion. And if I can move this here, the plaque is on the back of it. My father built this tray. In order to carry the flame across the country, we bought the miner's lamps, and I said, we need something a little bit special. And I asked my dad to build 2 trays, each of which housed 2 lamps, and 2 trays, each of which housed 1 lamp. And he made them right in the basement of our home out of North Adirondack pine, and there they are today.
Amazing.
Yep.
Now, the torch, the Olympic torch, and out in the car, we didn't bring those pictures in, Calvin, We have some pictures taken at the ceremony when the torch came in, and you at the mic, as a matter of fact. Then the woodmen were there, I think, presenting flags.
And I was looking to see if they had a flag. The Woodmen of the World presented an American flag to each American athlete who won a medal in the Olympics. And it was presented after they got off the stage in the building by the medal ceremony. And Calvin was there every night.
Yes, he was. Yes,
Calvin
he
was there every night with a ringside seat and Old Glory in his hand.
Okay, is this what got this interview with you today? Because he did that then?
That's when I first met Calvin.
That was, huh?
And our friendship goes back almost now 17 years because we, of course, talked about it before the games began. The torch, incidentally, this is a propane torch. The handle down below where the leather is wrapped, that's the fuel canister. Specially designed small propane tank, which when it's out of fuel, it's rechargeable, but it also can unscrew and a new one can be screwed in. So they carried those torches all the way from Yorktown, Virginia to Lake Placid, through our nation's capital, right to there, right to here.
Yep.
And of course, we'll go by this. We'll be able to see this from the top of the ski jump when we go out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And
stainless steel rings.
The rings, yeah. And who was the mascot here during that?
Oh, we had a mascot who was a raccoon.
Raccoon,
and they had a Name the Raccoon contest across the country, and the winning name was Ronnie the Raccoon. At some point in time, at one time they had the costume here in the museum. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe we won't. Hockey game, of course.
Did the U.S. have a hockey team in that year? Did they compete?
You bet they had a hockey team that year.
Who can forget after the victory, walking down Main Street here in Lake Placid? You know,
it really was extraordinary. I've never been to another hockey game that was as exciting as that one. And I'll tell you a funny story if you've got just a second.
Absolutely.
As we look at the pictures of the hockey game. As Calvin knows, the medal ceremonies every night were at 7:30 sharp out at what is, in the summertime, the public beach out on the lake. I had to go there because I was in charge of the ceremonies. And so I had to leave this hockey game with 10 minutes left to play. Now, the score was 4-3, so I had seen all the goals, but I had to leave. And I went over to the ceremony, and I went into the production booth, and I told the director, I said, look, everybody here is listening to this hockey game on their transistor radios. Until the game is over, we won't start. I don't want to take anything away from the medals that are going to be awarded. I want the audience to be attentive.
Right.
So I'm going to sit in the car, in the van, right by the gate here, listening to the game on the radio, and we'll start as soon as it's over. I hadn't gotten in the car but a minute when through the gate comes Sergei Pavlov, the Minister of Sport of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. He also had to leave the hockey game because he had athletes getting medals there. And, of course, they won a lot of medals, the Russians, that year, so we'd gotten to know each other fairly well. And I said, I rolled down the window, I said, Sergei, we're not going to begin the award ceremony until the hockey game is over. Why don't you get in the car with me and listen to the end of the game? So he did. And he sat there, and as the clock is ticking down, 30 seconds, 29, I look over, and he's got his hands like this. And I said, Sergei, comrade, I said, you're praying. And he just looked over at me and he said, don't tell Brezhnev. Well, the sad truth of it is, though, I didn't tell Brezhnev, of course, but because they didn't win the gold medal, Sergei Pavlov was fired as Minister of Sport and sent into exile.
Wow.
Sad end to that story.
We're going to take not an end, just a short break here at Hometown Cable. We're talking with Chris Artloff. We're in Lake Placid, New York, and we're talking about the Olympic records, the museum. We're going to go to many of the sites of the 1980 Olympics, which is so close to the heart of this man who is a resident, raised and born and raised here in Lake Placid, and so active in this as well as your wife. We'll be right back. Yep. Every once in a while, the worst part of this, of my doing this, is Calvin gives me a test, and his test is, do I recognize the man with the camera right there with the white shirt? Right? Look how close he was to the American team, and I don't. Well, he tells me it's Richard O'Connor, right? Richard O'Connor, Dick O'Connor, now a customs officer, and probably was taking pictures there for the North Countryman or for himself.
No, he worked for the Olympic Committee. He worked. Jack LeDuc,
he
as Chris
did?
will tell you, was the head of all the photography and stuff, and Dick O'Connor was on the payroll.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so here he's in the picture here in the museum.
Well, I'm glad we also got Calvin's voice on the program here, too.
Yes, well, we
Thanks
got him.
for the
Yes,
information,
once in a while
Calvin.
he does that.
Speaking of pictures, this picture here, there's a fascinating story. This is a black and white copy of the picture that was taken for the cover of Time magazine when Eric Heiden won his 5 gold medals. History making. Nobody ever won 5 gold medals at a
Amazing.
Singer Olympics. Well, Time magazine came out on Monday. They needed to take the picture on Thursday. He had won his 4th race at the time, but had not yet gotten his 4th medal, and he hadn't even won his 5th race. Time was hedging their bets, and they said, I had in charge of the medals too, in addition to the ceremonies. So they wanted us to let them have a 5th and a 4th medal to take pictures. So they'd have the picture they needed for the cover of Time.
In case.
Yeah. So I said, all right, under 2 conditions. A, that the medals never leave my sight because he doesn't own them yet, and he may not even win that 5th medal. Second condition was, if he doesn't win the 4th race, I keep track of exactly how many pictures you shoot, and you give me back those negatives. Because if he never wins 5 gold medals, there cannot be a picture of him wearing.
Exactly.
So they agreed to the terms, and then we got there to the photo shoot, and they shot him in a fur coat, in a yellow suit, in a blue suit, and a red suit, with 4 medals, and then the same different 4 suits with 5 medals. Took about an hour and a half, and the final thing, I said, I got one more condition if you don't mind. And they said, what's that? I said, I'd like to have my picture taken with him too. So in my den I have a
That's
picture
great.
of Eric and that, and with me with him.
With the
there.
5 medals.
With the 5 medals. I was hedging my bets too.
Yes, you were.
And
Great.
over here,
Yep.
Bob, are
Yep.
the medals.
Yep. Of course, you got your replays here going on, I guess, throughout.
Mm-hmm. Now here are the medals. These medals were made and designed by Tiffany and Company. They are the largest medals ever made for Olympics, summer or winter, to their time. Now, since then, somebody has made a larger one. They're bronze over here for 3rd place. The gold and the silver medal are each actually sterling silver. The gold is a gilded sterling silver. Not only couldn't you afford to have a solid gold medal, but because gold is soft,
Yes.
it would be dentable. So they require it to be sterling silver with a certain amount of gold on the
Give or
gilding.
take, what's the value of a medal like that?
I would say
Silver medal?
today, in today's terms, the value of the gold medal is probably $1,500 for the value of the product. Of
Yes.
course, as a collector's
Oh,
item,
yes, of course.
you can't get your hands on these
Right.
because every medal that was not awarded, with the exception of these 3, which are here in this museum, was sent to Lausanne and is the property of the International Olympic Committee.
Okay.
And they don't let them out for anything.
Do they show on the reverse what it's for?
Yes.
They do, huh? Okay.
I don't know if you can see it well here. This is the face here with the torch
Yes.
and the White Face Mountain and the rings.
Right.
And on the reverse, you can see Lake Placid 1980, and there's a blank area
So they're
there.
different completely for each Olympics.
Yes.
Oh,
you
I
make
didn't
your
realize
own for
that.
each Olympics. Yep.
Oh.
You design your own and make your own. We have the white pine here, and the blank space where Tiffany sent 3 engravers up here, and they had an office right here in this building. After the events, they engraved the name of the winner in his own alphabet. So if it was
Oh, okay.
Greek or
Yep.
Russian, it was in the Greek alphabet,
Okay.
in their own language,
Okay.
on their medal.
Right. You know, as a volunteer, and I'm a volunteer, as many of you people know, this is interesting. There were 6,703 volunteers recruited, and they got no pay, right? They were strictly,
got no pay.
strictly volunteers. This was their uniform. And they did that. Of course, it was nice to be a part of the Olympics, just like I'm proud and happy to be a part of Hometown Cable and meeting people like Chris here, whom I met before. But in a situation like this, where we're talking here real history. This is history we're making right now.
You got no pay, but you got to keep your suit, and you got a box lunch every day.
Oh, yes. Well, Calvin gives me a ride wherever we're going most of the time.
Same deal.
Yes. Last time we came to Lake Placid, I drove. We went up to I wanted air conditioning that day. Okay, and then we come around. Of course, what's the most famous event? That's the Olympics here at Lake Placid.
Well, I think that, of course, that depends on whether you're a bobsledder or a skater.
True.
But
they've always been known for
bobsledding has been the
bobsledding,
thing.
right?
When I was in college in the 60s, I'd say it was from Lake Placid, and people would not know that Lake Placid had hosted the Olympics, but they would say, "Oh yeah, that's where the bobsled run is."
Yep.
And the bobsled run, through all those years, has kept Lake Placid's name in the
Right.
It
It was the only one in the country, wasn't
It was
it?
the only one in
The only
North
one?
America
North
until
America.
the Calgary Olympics.
Yeah.
And of course now Salt Lake City is going to build one, so we'll be one of 3 in North America.
Okay. Now this is this is the actual one that they used in 1980.
I think no. This goes back
Further than
before
that?
I think this is 1948 or 56.
56,
This
huh?
was the last sled to win an Olympic medal in bobsledding at Cortina d'Ampezzo, Italy, in 1956, and that was its driver was Arthur Tyler.
Okay.
But you can see this was where they began to have the streamlining of the front. The old bobsleds, you didn't even have that. And of course, over here, Bob, this is what you're looking at today.
Okay. Yes.
These 3 shots, actually, this is pretty much today's modern design. This is 1980. What? No, that's the same sled from a different angle. But here you go back.
Yes. Here's where you're getting all kinds of wind interruptions hitting and it's
Yeah.
stopping you. Here now everybody's inside.
Inside.
Of course, Duncan Kennedy and another young lady, I can't think of her name, from Lake Placid area, made this very
Amy
famous.
Myler.
Myler.
Yep.
The luge, and there was another thing. I met Duncan Kennedy was when he was practicing on the roller skates coming down the flat thing up, next to the luge run back, when he was still in probably a freshman or before, when he was thinking about working on it, and he's become very, very famous, and that's what it is. That's what they go down at 60 miles an hour or something.
Boy, they move.
They really move. Yep. We also have a very famous, or do we get to it later, the ski jumper from this town by the name of Art Devlin.
Yeah.
Olympic, did he win the Olympics too? Or competitive?
He could have won the Olympics at Oslo. The first jump, they jumped twice. The first jump, he was leading the pack. Second jump, he didn't do so well.
Yep.
I mean, it was extraordinary. Art Devlin was national champion 4 times.
Yes.
He competed in the World Championships in 1950 and 1952, of course, at Oslo at the Olympics, and up through his second Olympic Games was 1956.
He's still living in the area?
Still lives here, has
got a
motel.
nice motel? Yes, Art Devlin's Motel. Okay, we'll take a sharp break as we go around the corner here, and then we'll get right back to you. We're at Lake Placid, New York. That says it all. Except for Chris Artloff, what else is it famous for? Olympics.
Olympics.
What you're looking at is a view from the south of the 2 ski jumps, the 80 and the 40 meters, I think.
90 and 70.
90 and 70.
90 and 70.
And we're in this building right here. That's the Olympic Arena. And we're going to go up there, I think, today, and we're going to get some shots down. Wait till you see that site. This area is for ski jumping. Okay.
Boy, they've done a great job on
Isn't it great, huh?
Bob.
Oh.
I was a trustee of the Olympic and Winter Sports Museum that was created right after the games, and this facility here, thanks to Ned Harkness's foresight and Orda's participation, has really made it come alive. It's one thing to have a museum board and a collection. It's quite another thing to actually be able to have an exhibit like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you been through it and read everything that's up here? Have you had a chance to do that?
I haven't been through under this current display. I was here during the NCAA Eastern, the ECAC hockey championships this spring, and this room was used, but the exhibits were not set up until just recently. This is an all-new exhibit this summer.
I think you should see what this is. Here's something else that Chris could tell us about.
Yeah, this is of course is a photo opportunity, and if you look up here, Whiteface Mountain, the 3,216-foot vertical drop. That's the largest, the highest vertical drop of any alpine ski facility in the eastern United States. And this, of course, is a chairlift that I think a lot of tourists probably take their pictures right here.
Yep. And you'll see in the background, you'll see the Whiteface Mountain with ski runs. And there's a picture of the ski lift going up just to the side.
And here, of course, is the snowmaking exhibit. Snowmaking really is just mixing air and water and blowing it out into the atmosphere so the water pellets will freeze before they hit the ground. And of course it takes air, compressed air, and it takes water mixed together. And these lines, air and water lines, run all the way up that mountain. And on various trails, the snowmaking guns, there are various types now. I am not familiar with how they all work, but basically they all mix air and water, and there you go.
And they're on a type of a sled so they can be moved from place to place. We saw those in the show we did at Beartown. Same basic principle.
Yep, from Beartown to Whiteface, it's all the same.
Yep. It extends the season both from early to late, late into the spring. And you always got snow if you want it.
Before we leave the museum, Bob, I want to call your attention to these beautiful banners here. These were created as part of the cultural arts program of the 1980 Olympics, and they were all hand sewn by professionals in the art of wall hangings and banner making. There's one for each of the sport disciplines. Slalom, you see, cross country, downhill, figure skating, pairs, and so forth. And they were hung in the arena, and for the closing ceremony, we actually hung them on the scoreboard, so that the scoreboard was transformed from a scoreboard into just a beautiful display as a centerpiece of our closing ceremony.
You must have wished that would never end. That must have been one.
I did.
But you had to be one tired person.
You bet.
Those were long hours.
And my feet were never dry the whole time. My feet never dried out.
Probably your eyes were wet, a little bit moist at times, too,
My wife says she was cold the whole time. We went to Sarajevo after that, and she was cold the whole time we were there. And when I went to Calgary, I asked her if she wanted to go. She said, "No, I don't want to go to any more Olympics. I'm always cold."
Well, that's true. Now, this was the place, I think, in here at Lake Placid, that someone won a 20-kilometer race by 1/100th of a second.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, unbelievable.
You know what they did? The gold and silver medalists in that. The two of them cut their medals in half.
Are you serious?
And they had the two of them put together with a gold half and a silver half, and so each of them now has a medal that's half gold and half silver.
Whatever. That's a nice
That's a sportsmanship story, isn't it?
1/100th of unbelievable. How, of course, that's only you couldn't do that in 32. You didn't have any kind of way to keep records
That's right.
like that.
You didn't have the timing.
No,
you couldn't.
no.
You that would have been a tie.
No, unbelievable.
Would have been no way to break.
And they're not racing side by side with it. It's just on a clock only. And of course, I think I don't know if it was the second person or the first that came in the 1/100th more.
Boy, I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
But what a story!
It certainly was. All right, we're looking here at some of the real old skates.
Yeah.
Again, this is a view. That's from a plane.
Yeah, that's from a plane. That must be in the early winter, late fall, because the Mirror Lake is frozen over, but Lake Placid hasn't yet.
Right. That's another interesting thing. Are you telling me that when I go out here, I'm not going to see Lake Placid?
This is Mirror Lake.
That's got to be Lake Placid, in the middle of the town.
Lake Placid is the large lake off to the north. Yeah.
We realize that. Make sure you know this. Matter of fact, my wife was reading this book the other night, and she saw something about a lady in the lake or something. And it's a new book she just got. And didn't you write a book about the lady in the lake?
That's the book.
That's called A Lady in the Lake.
A Lady in the Lake, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, if I don't know if I can reach, but right up there is Pulpit Rock. That's the deepest part of Lake Placid, 105 feet. And a woman committed suicide by jumping out of a canoe with an anchor tied around her neck in 1933. 1963, 30 years later, they found her body perfectly preserved, still lying on the bottom of the lake, all her clothing, everything, as if she'd just gone to sleep. And the book that I was privileged to write, thanks to Mark Cross from Sable Forks, who was the BCI investigator who'd done the thing and kept the files all these years, really details the account of how he and the New York State Police determined who it was and how she had come there and how the body had been preserved for 30 years.
It's your first endeavor at writing?
My second at writing. My brother and I wrote a book called Lake Placid, The Olympic Years, which we published in 1976, and which sold very briskly up until the 80 Olympics.
Are they both still available?
The Lady in the Lake continues to be printed. It's in the third printing. We've sold over 15,000 copies in the last 10 years. It's just 10 years ago this year.
Where would someone get that if they were from that
It's
area?
available here in Lake Placid in the 2 bookstores on Main Street, the Bookstore Plus and With Pipe and Book.
Okay. We know about that. Peg Barco knows all about With Pipe and Book. She's talked about that with, okay, so there I mentioned that to my wife, and I said, I know you wrote one. And I said, I think yours was called A Lady in the Lake. It must be the same story.
Same
Said,
story.
well, this was around Saranac Lake, she said, so it must be the same body, huh?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to look
I
at
think
that.
she said, I don't know if it's Crawford or somebody. I said, is it a novel or no? She said it was a, so I'm not sure what it is.
Let's
I'll
check
get the
that
name
out.
for you. I will. I'll get it for
Good.
you. Okay. I guess we're just about finished here at the museum. You come, it would take much longer when you read and look at every little thing, which we're not trying to do. We got a lot of area to cover, and we appreciate your time very much, Chris.
Before we leave, Calvin, go right up here to this blue, yellow, and red flag here, Romania. And just stay on that, and I'll tell you this story. Now, this was the most expensive flag we had to buy, because the Romanian seal had more colors and more intricate detail than any other artwork on any other flag. After the communist government was overthrown, the Romanian government threw out the whole seal. Their flag today is just a simple blue, yellow, and red flag. And now it's the cheapest flag you can buy, because the tricolor is basically the cheapest flag. So it went from the most expensive to the cheapest flag.
Now, you mean to tell me that these are owned by the Olympic Committee, and you had to buy them? Each country didn't donate one?
Well, no. And a very simple reason. They use different materials in countries. The different countries have different
they were
proportions.
all made, all right.
They're not all the same proportion. So what you do is you make them the same proportion as your country's flag.
Gotcha.
And you have to make them of same material. And of course, you have to guarantee that you've got them. And that's what you have to do. You have to design them. Well, you have to go to a company that knows how to make them, and you have to buy them. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for all the flag sets we had. Hundreds of thousands.
We'll be right back. We're going to go outside, look at the museum for the last time. Don't forget this face. He'll be back. You don't have to remember his face.
And his face, too.
And mine, too. If you were watching TV in 1980 or have seen any of the special since, you know that this is where it happened. Much of it right here within the arena. Tell us a little bit more, Chris.
Well, this, of course, where we're standing used to be about 20 feet underground before we built this. This was that hill above the old high school, and now it's this beautiful 8,500-seat facility with actually locker rooms below this level, too, for speed skating, where we won't be able to go there today, I don't think. But this is right there at that end. That's the goal, where the goal was scored that won the gold medal.
And where you didn't see the end of the game.
I did not see the end of the game, but I sat right over there behind the Russian team bench.
Yeah.
And of interest here, now these are all your modern modular hockey systems. But this whole area here where the team benches and the penalty box are, every day during the Olympics had to be taken out and replaced with a figure skating judge's platform. And then every other day it was hockey. Every day, they alternated. There was a lot of work for the crew here in this building to turn this around. And then finally, on the last day, after the last hockey game, then we had to set it up for the closing ceremony, and all the boards came out. At that point, I'm sorry, no, the boards stayed in. The hockey bench came out. We put over the boards blue cloth. So it was all nice and clean, and then this was set up. The orchestra was down here. The chorus was up there in the area where the restroom sign is now, and the Olympic flag was just up here, and down there was the flame hanging. Quite a transformation in about 4 hours between the end of the hockey game and the beginning of the closing ceremony.
I hope you notice as you go here the red, white, and blue effect in this whole arena. It's red, white, and blue is what it is.
And it ought to be, don't you think?
It certainly is. And it was red, white, and blue we were waving that day when they won that. Chris, what kind of a schedule did you have on a given day during those 2 weeks?
So hectic I can't even remember.
I mean, you were up at what? You were living at home,
morning,
right?
Living at home. We had rented our house, and my wife and I were living in the apartment that
Well,
down
explain
below.
that to these people. They go, so why'd you rent your house? You got to have a place to live.
Well,
tell them why you rented it.
You rented your house because a lot of people wanted to pay a lot of money to rent property here. We were able to rent our house for 1 month for $10,000, if you can believe that.
Did you hear?
$10,000. We were able to pay down that much on our
Unbelievable.
mortgage for 1 month's rental from a camera company from Germany that had to have technicians here to service the equipment that the media people from Germany had and the other people who used their camera, the Leica company.
Yep.
And they had 5 people who rented our house for 1 month for $10,000.
And it wasn't because you were part of the committee.
Oh, everybody had that
was renting.
opportunity.
You might
Anybody
have
that could have had a cottage,
Yep.
that even if it wasn't winterized.
Yes.
I could have lived in an unwinterized cottage and paid for the electric heat and still made a profit renting my house out.
Yeah.
Some people rented their places and just went to Florida for 2 weeks.
Yep.
But at any rate, we were living in the apartment, and we get up very early, just get out all day long, and get home very late at night.
She was working
Hardly
too,
walk-
right?
We
She
were
was
both
working too,
working.
yeah. But did the time go fast?
Time just went by just like that.
Of course, you were working months ahead too, correct?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
And then did it abruptly stop, or did it go on beyond there?
It stopped very quickly.
Okay.
It took a month or two to get all the things
All right.
wound down, but
Right.
we
We
were done by
never,
April.
when we were talking up there, we never did find out how you got to Channel 5 after this. How soon after? And
Well,
how did that
Bob,
take
I
place?
had trained at Michigan in radio and television, and as I mentioned before, I had been working for National Public Radio. And during the years that I was here before the Olympics, I got to know Carl Loveday at Channel 5 well, and indeed a couple of times he offered me a job there. But in those days, Channel 5 really couldn't pay enough to support a man and a wife, let alone a family, and I was still working here. After the Olympics, I worked for Congressman David Martin's election, and when he was elected, I went to work on his staff, representing him here in the district. And along about August of 1981, I got a call from Mr. Loveday saying that he had a job for me if I was interested. And this job was the anchor job, and I took it. Carl knew that I was interested in TV,
Right.
but I frankly had thought I was going to be in politics for the rest of my life.
You see, we people, way back, I never realized that you had those ambitions. And when I heard that you were going to run for assemblyman, I said, what's he thinking? You know, he's such a good person on TV. You know, why get into politics?
Right.
And just question, it flows naturally. You've got the smile for it. You've got the...
Well, what flows naturally is just the same issues. You know, the same issues that you're covering in the news business are the issues that you cover in government, with the difference that in the news business you go back and put it on the air, and in government you try to finish the project.
Certainly all that TV exposure did a lot of good for
But
you.
you know, what you said is exactly the problem that I faced as a candidate for the assembly. People knew me as an anchorman, and they were saying, well, why is he running
what's
for
he know about
politics?
politics?
What's he know about it? I can see him as an anchorman, but I can't see him as an assemblyman. And I'd go knock on doors, and they'd, oh, come on in, you're the guy on TV.
Yep.
And at first I was puzzled. I was saying, they say you're the guy on TV. Do they know my name, or am I just the guy on TV? Because in the ballot box it isn't going to be a picture, you know. So then I'd say, well, yes, I'm Chris Ortloff, and I'm running for the New York State Assembly. And they go, whatever happened to that girl that used to be on there with you? And I'd say, you mean Dawn Fratangelo? Yeah, that's the one. They didn't remember her name either. And I'd say that she had a good job in San Diego, making about $75,000 a year, but I'd really like to talk to you about a job that I'd like to do for you. And they'd say, yeah. But what about the black guy who was with you? I said, you mean Rick Whitlow? They didn't remember his name either. So I got...
you better get your name out.
In other words, what you're saying was exactly the problem. I said, I've got to convince these people that they can see me differently. As it worked out, I did. But that was a funny encounter.
You're not running this fall.
No.
So we're not plugging him for the fall. We want to make sure we don't have to give your opponent equal time. We're not plugging. We're just talking because it is an evolution, and people knew you. You know, they recognized your face. And we did a story. Who did we do the story on, Calvin? Channel 5. Our good, another good TV man. We went and talked with. Bird Burdett, we retired. We did this story on him, and the most familiar face I think in the county.
Really?
Bird Burdett.
Still today.
Yeah. Oh,
Still
yeah.
today. Saw
Yeah.
Bird a couple of weeks ago. Channel 5 had a going away party for Dick Roberts, one of their camera people and producers.
We don't know those people.
Going
Too
off
bad
to
we
work
don't.
for Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, yeah?
Great job.
Yeah.
And so they had a party at Anthony's Restaurant in Plattsburgh, and Neil Drew was there,
Yeah.
and Bird was there,
Yeah.
and I came, and it was a good time. Good to be
Very
with all
good.
those fellas. that I used to
Okay,
work
now, these are the people here for the summer, preparing for world and national events, right? People
Sure.
come here to train.
This
These are
is,
not all local people, hardly any.
Oh, of course, this is really, you're in a large arena that's world famous, but really what you see here is no different from what you see at the Rouse's Point Arena
Right.
or little arenas all over the country. You see dedicated young people using the ice surface to train in their sport, and all of them have got dreams. And of course, as luck would have it, only a few of them will ever achieve their dreams, but they'll have a great time in the pursuit.
Absolutely. Just practice is fun.
Yeah.
If you've never been to the Olympic Arena, watch and see what's coming up here. They have wrestling here. They've got music. A lot of different things happening here. It's only 75 miles from where we live, about 50 miles from Plattsburgh, 55, something like that. Take a ride up and see the Olympic Arena firsthand. History was made here. This is part of history right here we're talking to. Chris Hartloff. Take a short break. We've come out in front of Lake Placid High School, which you can't see because Calvin's got a picture on the screen. Tell us what that is. Oh, you don't have it yet. Okay, this is a historic place. We're standing on the oval where the skating took place, and Calvin said on the 8th of February, it was more than anything else, it was cold. Right, Calvin? Very cold. I came the 22nd and it wasn't cold. Beautiful day. And
the 8th of February would have been the day the torch arrived.
That's right. That's when Calvin came. All right. And we have pictures here of the torch arriving right here. And Calvin can get this. Okay, you got that on there. Tell us about that. Can you recognize anybody in the picture?
You've got the lights of the school in the background, as you can see there, and all the flags of the nations, led by Dr. Robert Lopez from Westport, who was the local torchbearer. He had a veterinary practice here in Lake Placid, and they marched around the oval and through the ranks of the hostesses in the red coats there, and then they went up the steps of the school behind us here.
Okay, one more thing before we change. It wasn't just because they didn't want the students running around here during this time. That building was being used for another purpose.
This was the press center. The
Press
entire
center.
building was occupied, but was offices for all the world press.
And you're talking hundreds of people? Thousands?
We're talking to thousands
of people were in that
representatives
building.
of the media.
Yep. Okay. Second picture.
This is the Dr. Lopez holding the torch aloft and making the presentation here.
Okay. Now there's a man on the right-hand side in a brown suit. You recognize him?
That's my coat. It must be me.
It must be you, huh?
I don't know if you. I'm right there on the edge of the picture, but you've got those big white moon boots on. It really was cold. Coat and tie and moon boots.
Okay, you had the moon boots. All right.
And in the next picture here, these are very important to Calvin. Now, I'm turning to Calvin Castine in this picture, who has under his arm, you can see the red and white stripes of Old Glory. This is the flag that the Woodmen of the World were presenting to the Lake Placid Olympics. And the man in the white suit with the red buttons is Jack Shea. He's wearing his suit from the 1932 Olympics. And in the next picture, you'll see Calvin making the presentation of his flag.
Calvin with the long white coat on the left. Yep. Making a presentation to who here?
This is to the Reverend J. Bernard Feld, President of the Lake Placid Olympic Committee.
Right. And over on the left, again, you see our guest today, Chris Hartloff. Anybody else from the Woodmen in that picture, Calvin?
Oh, it's kind of blocked out. Adrian Dutill's next.
Adrian Dutill's in the blue. Patty Hicks.
And Jim Robbins is
Jim Robbins over to the right.
So we'll get a shot of him in a minute.
Okay.
It's a little bit of history right here. right here.
Crew that came up with it.
Okay.
And here they are in daylight on the oval during the games, right?
Okay, and they're facing off to the right here. Jim Robbins. Pardon?
It's the same day of the.
Okay, and
Using a new camera here, so I'm little.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
Next person.
Okay, you got Jim Robbins. Then Adrian Dutel,
That's Adrian and
Patty Hicks, Kathy Gooley, and my brother Guy.
Brother Guy.
Most of the pictures that. So I let him get a picture
Right.
of him.
Yep, and then the Olympic Arena in the back is where we just exited. And if we'll get back live here, and you're looking around, that's the town hall, not the village hall, the town hall.
Village offices are there, but it's the town
Okay,
hall.
so Lake Placid is a village within the town of North Elba.
You got it.
All
You
right.
got it. And that building was built in the 20s, and it served as the headquarters for the 1932 Olympics. All the offices for the 32 games were in that building.
In that building.
We had our 1980 headquarters in that building, and all of that building was Olympic offices, but it didn't nearly contain all the ones we needed.
Right. One of the best known buildings and most talked about was that green roofed bar and restaurant right there that they couldn't buy, right? He just wouldn't sell it.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, Chris.
You know the story of Hurley's Bar in New York City that wouldn't sell out to Rockefeller Center, so they built it around it.
Yes.
Well, this is kind of the same story.
Yep.
Matt Devlin, who was a classmate of mine in school, owned the Arena Grill, and he did not want to sell for construction, and I think he was right.
Probably
do more business as the bar at the corner. Of course, now today it's been sold and it's now a sporting goods store, but it's the place that wouldn't sell for the big new construction of the Olympic Arena.
Yeah. And just up, if you'll see the flag way of the Holiday Inn, is it upside way up? Just to the right of that is the fire station. And on national TV, it was a popular place because the girls used to walk by, and then the firemen all held up numbers from 1 to 10, and whether they were a 7 or an 8, it would be 5 or 6 guys. Just like, you remember that?
Like the figure skating
just
judges.
Just like the figure skating judges did when someone would walk by.
They couldn't do that today, I'm afraid.
No, I'm afraid they would arrest them today. But that was being done in 1980. Yeah. As you look up here, the cement or the brick building, you see, is the 1932.
Yes, that building was the first indoor figure skating facility built for the Olympics. That was Lake Placid's major innovation in 1932. Its major contribution to the history of the Winter Olympics was indoor figure skating.
And it's best known for in the front having a pile of snow year-round.
Exactly.
Still there?
Yep. And that, of course, that's the shavings off the ice when the Zamboni dumps it.
Exactly. Dump it.
Some good promoter years ago said, why dump it in a pile out behind? Dump it out in front. The tourists can pose for pictures with real snow. And it was still is a very popular photo spot here in the village of Lake Placid.
Well, you know, we never asked you what kind of sportsman you were back then. Were you in athletics?
I was a skier.
You were a skier?
I mentioned my dad had carried me on his shoulders.
Did you ski after that?
Got me started.
Oh, he did.
And I was a competitive skier. I was on the Lake Placid high school ski team.
They had a high school
and
team?
on the RPI ski team. We had 3 sports. We had, in my class, which was 65 total, about 30 boys. You figure that means there were only about 120, 130 boys in the whole high school, and we had hockey, basketball, and skiing.
In the winter, yes.
And if you weren't on one of those, you were probably just not capable of anything because they recruited heavily.
Right.
And I remember a good friend of mine was a hockey player, and he really wanted to play basketball, but he couldn't do both. And that was the thing. We had 3 sports with that.
Who did you compete with at the high school team? I didn't know any high school.
Skiing, we competed with Tupper Lake, Saranac Lake, Johnstown, Old Forge, and there was another team out in the central part of the state. They had to travel the longest distance.
That's right. You were not in the same league then as you are now.
Skiing, we were in Section 7, but skiing, because there were so few, you competed really across the state.
Yeah.
And of course in football, Placid, I was the manager of the football team.
Okay, yeah.
And right here, this was our old football field.
Right here in the middle, yeah.
We had a long, long losing streak. until 1961 when we beat Plattsburgh right here. And then the next year we won the Champlain Valley League Championship, tied OLVA for the league championship.
Just had to win the one. With all your skiing, have you ever changed the shape of your legs or all? You never broke a leg or anything like that?
Never broke a leg.
Never broke a leg. That's what I always say. I don't ski. I like my legs the way they are.
Well, I think you're probably very safe.
All right, we're going to move on to another venue. I guess we call them venues here?
That's it, venue, place where something happens.
Yep. Venue. That's the way we refer to it. Okay. All right, we've moved, Chris. Where are we now?
This looks like a bobsled run, but there's green grass and trees around. I can't figure this out.
Yes. There's also some little kind of red or brown leaves, too.
Oh, don't talk about that. Fall's coming too soon for me. I haven't even enjoyed the summer yet.
Yeah. What you see here, that's the Bob Run, huh?
Yep, that's right.
As you're looking at, and there's going to be someone coming down in a few minutes on a vehicle with wheels.
Boy, you're not kidding. This is the latest thing they have here, is sleds on wheels.
Yep.
That enable the tourists who come here during the summer to get a sense of what it's like. And this will be the first time that I've seen it today. But this is a very expensive facility to operate, chiefly because you've got all this concrete above ground. It's part of a refrigeration system, and as you know, heating and cooling cracks concrete, so you've got to believe there's a lot of maintenance here. Plus it's very expensive because the refrigeration system is powered by electricity.
Yep.
You got to run it. You got to run it all winter long.
Takes money with electricity.
So if they can clearly do anything to enhance the number of visitors who come and the tourists who pay money to ride these sleds in the summer and the winter, that's going to increase the income level here. And of course, we haven't mentioned this, but all of these facilities we've seen today are operated by the Olympic Region Development Authority, part of the state of New York, and our tax dollars do subsidize that which the revenues don't generate.
Let's take a break here a second. I want to show you, Calvin. You saw the track coming down, the big curve, and then they start slowing down. There's no brakes. They go way up to where those people are up to. That's how far it will be before it stops.
Now you hear the loudspeaker. It's hard to hear what they're saying, but there's a warning. There's a sled about to come down.
Okay.
And they'll talk the sled down the whole way over the PA system. So
now he's not driving it himself. There's a driver that's bringing this down, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a driver.
Yeah,
is that like the one we saw over there?
I believe so.
No, that's the winter. It's like that, but it's.
Well, we'll see. I haven't, as I said, I haven't seen the sleds that they've put out.
We think it's like that white one on the end, but with wheels instead of runners.
Well, we'll see.
But we're not sure.
We're going to get some of the boys here to bring the sled down. They have professional drivers and brakemen, just as they do in the winter, and it goes a little slower. They tell me. We'll see.
One of the things that we were talking about.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Calvin said he was going to take a ride.
Yes, he's going to go with somebody.
If I would, he would.
That's right.
So I took his dare.
Yeah, there's two people.
Well, what about you, Bob?
I'm going to have the camera. Someone's got to have the camera.
Somebody's got to have the camera.
We were talking about these curtains, and
I have experience with the camera, though. You could ride. I'll be glad to let you ride.
You don't hold the camera. Your son holds the camber. You were in front of the camera.
Years ago, though, I used to hold the camera. Believe me, I could do it, Bob. If you really want to ride, I could do it.
Talking about cameras, we want to talk maybe if you saw any pictures moving at all when we were showing those still pictures back in front of the high school. This is Sam's camera, and Calvin's using it today, I guess, for the first time, and it's always strange with the first time with a camera.
Yeah. We could talk a little bit about the history of this, Bob, while we're waiting for the sled to come down, Bob.
Yep.
The original was 1.5 miles long and went all the way all the way to the top of Mount Van Hovenberg.
Yep.
In basically one section went this way, the other section went back this way, and the last section went that way in two big hairpins. After the 32 Olympics, they shortened the run to 1 mile and took out the top hairpin and began now at the mile. But it still comes across the face of the mountain and then down this way. This was all built originally out of stone excavated out, and the stone was embedded into the earthen walls, and then only iced over in the wintertime. All natural. It was never refrigerated until the 1980 Olympics forced the construction of a refrigerator run. Now, if you look down here a little bit, you can see an idea of the construction of the new curves. They're not just built into the bank the way the old ones were. They're built up with pilasters and structural supports here. Inside the concrete is the refrigeration system. The curves are all refrigerated with piping inside. And over in the woods beyond the restaurant here, you can't see it, are the large refrigeration buildings. The old run lasted for nearly 50 years. It was torn out and replaced with a new run almost identical. The curves are all the same. The only changes are minor changes in the slope and the curvature of each curve, because from 1932 to 1980, of course, the bobsleds got much faster, the technology much better, and the old run would have been dangerous with today's sleds. So the new run is designed for faster sleds. And over here, if you can see it, Calvin, right here at the finish line, you see there are...
The finish is right there, you see, underneath.
Here. And you can see where the gap there in the concrete, right at the bottom there, the two little holes there. Okay?
Yes.
Now, the electric eye is put up down there at the other end there, right under the finish line. So the timing is by an electric eye.
I'm sorry.
You can't really see it. Can't really see it as well as I thought you could. But now we've got a sled about to come down. Let's listen to the announcer as we watch to see it come through the last straightaway and the finish curve.
Yeah. This is curve 16. Obviously, there are 16 curves on the track.
And they start at the half mile just below Shady. So the first half, the first 8 curves are not used for spectators and for public sliding.
Now the drivers know exactly where they are at all times. They know the shape of the curve, where
they do,
like the back of their hand.
Yeah. Well, of course,
you don't have a chance to see it.
Not the first time.
No.
The first time a driver comes down, but they actually have licenses. And they have to earn their license to drive.
Of course, when people stand along a track like this, and you see very little of the race because it just zoomed.
And that's, of course, why the announcer is so important. Do you realize that for years and years, WNBZ radio used to broadcast the bobsled runs? Now, if you figure this is all the audience got was the track announcer.
Yeah.
Here they come now.
In zig, out zag.
There's 15.
Here they go. Listen to those wheels. Go way up to...
Now you see that sled rides way up that hill. You've got a lot of speed on that sled coming through here, and of course in the wintertime they put the brakes on halfway up that hill, and it still takes them way up that hill to stop.
Now we see who rides I don't think we should have shown that, Chris, ahead of time, because now you guys still going to do that?
No, I'm going to run the camera, and you're going to run the sled.
Yeah, I'll bet that's going to happen. We should look at the picture over here and see just what we're talking about as we, where it started from and so forth. Okay, this is the drawing of the full course. Okay.
Now remember I told you the old run used to go way up to the top of the mountain, which is over here. That's all grown over now. If you go up hiking there, you can still see the stones in the woods, but it's really all gone.
Okay.
The mile start here, and down here to the big curve here, and this is where
they start now.
Mile starts.
Okay, and they come down through here, and then zigzag is right in here. They were talking, and we're standing right here, and this is where they go all the way up to here before they stop, and then they weigh people up here to see that when weigh as much as when they
Now,
started.
Calvin, you get a close shot here.
Yes.
It says responsibilities of user and waiver. That means you have to be responsible for yourself.
Yes, yes. And you
Okay?
and
If
this
you're
is
going to ride this sled, Calvin, you have to be very responsible.
yep. You have to keep your hands in.
They call me irresponsible.
Okay, all right. Now they give you the whole thing here, and in case of injury, name your doctor.
This is a safe operation. This is just a formality, Bob. Just a formality. In all the years of public sliding here, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have enjoyed this in the winter. And this year, for the first time,
It's summer.
summer visitors to Lake Placid can also enjoy the bobsled run and also the luge run.
Don't make that much noise in the winter. Of course, you just hear the ice of the runners. Those wheels are really turning down here. What are the wheels made out of? Are they rubber? Do you know? Are the wheels made out of rubber?
Hard rubber.
Hard rubber. All right.
Well, why don't we go see how you enjoy
All
it?
right.
It's not filled out yet, so there's still
We're
a
gonna
chance for you to
be
put your name on your
right
bob.
back.
All right?
Wait, we got to get a camera going here. We're gonna get.
Okay.
Okay, but now one more time for that bell, so we'll know we're supposed to get on. There we are. We're going on this trailer. Going to go up to the beginning of this and watch Chris and Calvin come down this mountain and in the gully.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Mount Van Hovenberg's Olympic Sports Complex, Bobsled and Luge Run. The building to your right is known as the sled shed. This is where all the athletes store and maintain their bobsleds in the winter sliding season. The bobsled run was constructed in 1931 for the 1932 Olympics. It was 1.5 miles long, and it was carved out of the earth and stone. You're now going to go directly underneath part of the bob run finish ramp. The bobsleds use the entire ramp to slow their sleds down in the winter time. In 1935, the bobsled track was shortened to 1 mile long. In 1979, the bobsled track was reconstructed. It's made of gunite, refrigerated, and lighted for nighttime sliding. In front of the trolley at this time is the finish curve of the bob run. Bobsleds going through the finish curve are approximately doing 70 to 80 miles per hour. The white poles with the black material on it are a shade pole. They're strictly there to block the sunlight away from the ice surface. As I speak, the bobsled track will be on your right-hand side. The luge run will be on the left-hand side. These are the only two separate tracks in the world. The luge run was constructed in 1979 for the 1980 Winter Olympics. It is 1,000 meters long. It is also refrigerated and lighted for nighttime sliding. The dark brown building to our left is known as the Announcer's Tower. The finish ramp to our left is approximately 4 years old. The old finish ramp used to follow the contour of the ground and end just before the telephone pole. Due to the speed of the sleds, we had to raise and lengthen the ramp. The big curve directly behind the finish ramp is called Omega. Omega is a 270-degree turn, which is designed to slow the luge sleds down. To your right is Zigzag. Zigzag are two 90-degree turns facing each other. Quick left, quick right, and you're through it. Bobsled Run offers another type of sliding sport on it. This one is called skeleton. This is where the person is laying down on his or her stomach on a specially designed sled and going down the track head first at over 80 miles per hour. This summer, you can ride the storm. You could ride thunder, lightning, or cyclone. They are wheels of bobsleds. A professional driver and brakeman will take 4 passengers down at an average speed of 55 miles per hour. In the winter time, we offer 3 types of passenger ride programs. The first one is provided on the Bob Run. It is a half-mile ride. A professional driver and brakeman will take 3 passengers down at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. We're now going to take the roadway that leads to the half-mile start and to the world's famous curve, Shady. Shady stands 22 feet tall. it is a 170-degree turn. This corner can actually catapult bobsleds through the course at 80 to 90 miles per hour. 4-man bobsleds pull 4 G's in the one corner. Want to go for a little ride? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the half-mile start and to the summer storm.
Hey, sleep.
Okay, we're up halfway up the mile, and you see Chris got his elbow guards on here. I guess they're going to play, going to wrestle or something. I don't know. They got him with his elbows things on so he can be inside here because his elbows probably hit against the side.
This is the storm.
Yeah, you've heard of the calm before the storm. Well, this is the calm, and this is the storm. This is going to be your vehicle right here.
This is quite a vehicle.
Okay.
This is an adapted bobsled. This started out life as a regulation bobsled.
Yes,
Did
it
it?
did.
Yep, okay.
How did you add the extra person? You can carry 5 people on
Well,
this?
what we did is we cut the frame in the back here, and then we extended it by, I believe, 14 inches, and just welded it back together. It's steel. You know, one part goes over the.
You're the driver?
sleeves over. Yes, I am.
Chris Ortland.
Travis Isham.
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Last
from
name?
Placid. Isham.
Isham, okay.
Not from Keene Valley? Well, my father is, yes.
Okay. Well, Travis, what makes you think you can drive this vehicle?
Well, about 6,000 trips off the half.
Is that right?
Yep.
Is that right? 6,000
I have
trips
700 and over 20 trips this summer.
this
in
summer?
Yep.
And you do it in the winter too?
Yes, I do, from the mile and from the half.
Ah.
So I've been around for
How long you been doing that?
Well, actually, I got my license when I was 18. My father used to bobsled, and my mother was a loser, so I started out actually at 7 years old, pee-wee bobsledding.
Oh, so
I
you're...
did that once.
I'm
yeah.
hooked.
Yep.
See, one.
Pee-wee bobsleds.
Yeah.
That was a great program.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
Little sleds,
Yeah.
wooden sleds with steering wheels.
Right.
Good program.
Well, Travis, what's going to happen here? These two guys are going to ride down with you. You're going to sit in the front, obviously.
Yes.
Or Chris could ride in the front, he said, but he'd rather have you, I think. Okay, how do you steer this?
Well, it's just, there's D-rings inside,
He said,
hooked
what do
up
you
to
mean?
ropes.
Yeah?
And,
Two ropes you pull.
2 ropes, yeah, which are hooked up to bungees, which is hooked up to a crank arm. And
Okay.
right down in there, and the crank
See
arm's
these right
hooked
here?
up to the runners, yep. So you pull right, you go right, you pull left, you go left.
I hope they lock your hands on it and
Well, you just put them between your knees.
right between your knees and go. All right. Now, so you're sitting way up here.
Yes, I am.
Then you have 4 other people
Yes.
you can give a ride to.
My brakeman's in the back.
Okay. And what do you tell your riders once they get in with you?
Well, you tell them to hang on tight, you know. If they know a little prayer, you know. Just
Okay, and
say
keep
the
your
little
hands
prayer.
inside, your
That's
elbows
right, yep.
inside, huh?
Arms and elbows inside.
Uh-huh. Is it the feeling like a regular winter bob?
It is, yeah. I mean, the only thing that different is like the cold, you know. In summer bobsledding,
Oh yeah,
t-shirt
Co-
action.
yeah. Okay.
That's about the only difference.
The noise is a lot more
Oh,
noise.
there
on
is
this?
a lot more noise, yes,
Yeah.
and it's maybe just a little bit rougher.
Okay, it's rougher now than in the.
than-
But the ice when it gets rotted, that must get
yeah,
pretty
it
rough.
does. Yes, at times it does.
Okay, do you do it competitively?
Well, I raced in the national championships last year, and I plan on doing the same thing
Oh,
this year.
great.
So,
Good luck to you.
eventually, I'd
Travis.
like
yeah.
to go somewhere.
They tell
Very
me this
good.
is a little bit slower than the winter.
Yes, it is. Maybe just on a really hot, humid day, this thing will fly. We'll get speeds like winter speeds. During the summer, or during the like a cold day like today, it slows down a little bit. The grease doesn't quite get.
Would
as
you
hot.
rather come back on a hot, humid day, Calvin?
Well, I would, but
You'll
we're
take
here.
whatever you.
We're
While you're here, you'll take whatever. You feel the same way too?
Anything,
Anything,
Calvin says
anything.
is fine with me.
What are the little blue ones over there? Is that the luge?
Yeah, that's the Star Luge right there.
Oh, and it goes right down here too.
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay. And those you drive yourself.
Yes, you do. You paddle them yourself.
Yeah.
Give you a prayer and a push.
Okay.
A little
then the
instructions.
prayer after that is all your own.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
So how many times do you do this a day?
Well, the most I've done it is 31 times in one day.
Get tired? You must be tired at the end of the day.
That's an addiction. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do it all day.
You put things in your ears so you don't hear people yelling. There must be a lot of.
No, once you get going,
Still?
it seems to like all back
goes
towards the
behind you,
brakeman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a brakeman too?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Okay.
Don't you think that would be a good idea?
Well, I didn't know if he would control the brake. I don't know.
That's what we're
Yeah,
going
the
to do
brakes
when
are
you
right
go
here.
down, Bob, with the camera. When you go down with the camera, they're going to have you stand right in the middle of the track. And without a brakeman, you'd be in real tough shape.
See, if it weren't so wide, I would stand in the track with the camera and go between my legs. But you don't do that, right?
No.
You don't do that. This is pretty high for me right here.
Well, in a minute we'll get in the sled, I guess, won't we?
Okay, here's some of the shades that are up. You can see what they look like when they're up. Okay.
Even though you can see through them, they cut a lot of the sun.
Okay. Well, I want to let you people know that this, you two guys, this is your way down right here. You too, Trevor. Three way of you. That's my way down right over there in the blue.
Okay.
My contract calls for me to go down only on wheeled vehicles.
I see. Are you going to wait here until we get in the sled?
I guess so, but we're not going to. You're going to have to give me a start here. Yeah, we'll let you get in the sled so we can see you in the sled. Getting ready here. Calvin's getting his elbow pads on. Chris has his on already. Calvin's not quite as brave. He put his on over his coat. See, Chris went right down to the bare metal, to the bare skin.
You know, I have to say, Bob, I think these would be very helpful in Albany.
Wouldn't they? Or when you come home, mate. Yeah. Yes, and when you come home with your constituents.
Oh no, we get along just fine with our constituents. We don't need elbow pads. You look familiar.
Okay, we've got a track runners coming down. Bob Venn with the camera and the mic now. Down at the bottom, safe and sound when we're waiting for Calvin Castine and our assemblyman, Chris Artloff. We won't see him for a few seconds, and then we'll only see him for one or two. They'll be coming around that zigzag up, what you can see on the end up there. If the people in the sled think the worst part is over, they're wrong. They haven't got the zigzag yet. You can hear the track. You can hear the wheels. Here they come. And halfway up the flags are bothering our automatic focusing. Now I would assume that half mile didn't take them much more than 35 seconds. We can see them getting out. Calvin, of course, is in the jacket. And Chris Artloff is, well, there's an extra rider in there, or two. Everybody's walking. They got something to tell their children when they get home. Chris with 2 and Calvin with 4. Here at the Bobsled and Luge Run in Lake Placid, New York. That's where you are. You're watching Hometown Cable, brought to you every day, 5 times a day. You can watch a 3.5-hour program and repeat 12:30, 4:15, 8 p.m., midnight, and 8 the following morning, every day, 7 days a week. And every Sunday you can watch what's going on here. That's what you're watching right now. Thanks for tuning in. Well, they're walking back, and they're waving, yes. Now, Calvin's shirt was green when he started, now it's white. Gee, I'm sorry I couldn't make that trip, but someone has to do the job here with the camera. Those are the 3 riders that came down with the brakeman and the driver. First, for Calvin, I guess maybe for Chris too, coming down, and this ride has only been I guess this year, or no more than a year before that. See? Made it well. Sorry I didn't go.
This gentleman here, and I'm sorry I didn't ask his name. He comes from Albuquerque, New Mexico, just to ride the Bob Run.
Yes.
His sister's on the next sled.
His sister's on the next sled?
Well, no, actually, I think she's going to walk down.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, tell us about it, guys. Tell us about it, Calvin.
Oh, we need the mic.
Oh, yeah, we better give you the mic. All right.
I've been working with Bob for about 5 years, Chris, and it's tough to get this mic away from him.
I can understand. I can understand.
Dr. John Southwick was the only one I've ever seen that could do it.
Okay.
Zig, zag, that was enough for me. You?
Finish curve was exciting. You notice that you're really moving when you get to the finish curve, and if you can take that and imagine that the finish curve was shady and you're only halfway down and you've got the rest of us to go at that speed, you can get a sense of what it is like in the wintertime on the mile.
Yeah, it was fun. The zig and the zag I thought was going to be our bad curves, and once we're through those, I was kind of relaxing when we hit this last one, and I kind of took my back by surprise when we came through there, but it was interesting.
Are you close enough to hold each other's back up, or do you really get...
Oh, we get to know each other quite well in there.
You're holding on to a handhold. Everybody has a handhold, so you keep yourself up there.
Right.
But you notice the driver and the brakeman, the professionals there, they had the kidney belts on, to protect their back. I didn't notice they didn't give us any.
I noticed that. Of course, he's going 31 times, Travis said.
31 times a day.
Yeah,
My gosh,
So
that's a lot.
I think I'd want my kidney belt down too if I was going down there 31 times.
Well, this has been a thrill.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next venue unless Bob wants to talk some more.
Yes, I think it's going to be up on the ski jump.
Yep, we're going down to ski jump next.
Thanks for
Stay
tuning in,
around.
folks.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's down, everybody's safe. I got the microphone, and Calvin's got the camera again, and Chris sitting here just relaxing, standing here just relaxing, Chris.
Relaxing, watching somebody else.
Watching somebody else down.
They used to call, and they still do call this the champagne of thrills. And, you can compare this with a roller coaster ride, with amusement rides all over the country. But just remember, this is authentic. This is not a simulation. This is the real thing.
Yep. I never cared for roller coasters either. I can get thrills a lot easier than that. Okay, they're on their way down.
One of the things too, Bob, that you realize that the driver is driving this. As you come into the curves, you realize the driver is controlling where the sled is and what line he takes through the curves.
And he's got to be at a certain alignment all the time. Little S. Little S is...
Taking 12. Through 12, approaching zigzag. There's zigging. There's zagging. They're through zigging and zagging, now taking...
Here they are. There they're coming. Here they come. Look here.
Yes.
I didn't get you tipped that way because I was over there. Yeah, you disappeared, but we've come to our next venue, and if you can't tell where we are without my telling you, then we might just as well go get a sandwich, because this is one of the scary places. This is where those... I can't believe what they do here.
People actually go off that.
Yep.
I mean, they're right over there is the takeoff.
Yep.
Now, of course, the hill is up there,
yes,
elevated, but look at that. That's 50 feet above the ground right there.
Well, they tell me that once they go, they're never over 20 feet from the ground.
That's true.
Because they're going down, but but they're
the
still
hill is
going out there.
designed to follow the ballistic
Yep.
curve that the
Yep.
jumper would take.
But as long as there's more than one step, I really don't care to go
You're
on
not-
it.
you're
I'm
still not a
okay.
fan of it.
We're going to get some great shots from the top here, so please stay with us. There's a chairlift, right, that brings you up from down below.
Yes.
If you want to come up, that's new.
The competitors use that. Now, the old day ski jumpers would have never ridden a chairlift. After all, the walk all the way up those steps was what strengthened your legs, that made you a man, you know.
And you could see all your people, and you can think about what you're going to do.
That's right. But time being what it is, and the time it takes to get up there, it's a big improvement. Now, right over there, actually, right about where the top of that chairlift is, a little farther over, the first tree was cut for this project.
Oh?
Actually, it was the day before the engineers were to move in. my brother-in-law and I came out with a chainsaw. We cut the first tree, and
Is that right?
I still have the section that we cut out, the notch we cut out before we felled that tree.
You know, something we didn't see, you people didn't see on TV, okay, we went into what is called the Lake Placid Hall of Fame. What is the Lake Placid Hall of Fame at the Olympic Arena?
It's a hall of fame for people who've made significant contributions to this community. Not only sports figures, although most of them are, but they include Dr. Edward Livingston Trudeau, the great scientist who developed tuberculosis sanitariums, Kate Smith, Lowell Thomas, the great broadcaster, and a number of other people, local and from around the world, who've made a mark on Lake Placid's history.
Yeah. The reason I bring it up because there's two people in there at least very close to your heart.
Oh, they are.
Tell us who they are.
My father-in-law, Dr. George Hart, who was chairman of the medical committee for the 1980 Olympics, and president of the school board for many, many years, delivered 3,000 babies in this town over his career, and my mother-in-law, Ruth Hart.
Both in there.
Who was the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for many years, president of the Garden Club, and still today a very strong activist in the community.
I think we should mention that.
Yeah,
okay.
That's very good. Matt.
We're still on terra firma here right now. We haven't gone up the tower yet. We stopped here to show you what it looks like right at this point. And Chris, where was the old jump? Off to the left here?
Well, the old jump was over here.
Over to the right?
Where the current 70-meter jump
okay.
is. It wasn't as far back as that. It was a little lower. That jump only stood about 10 feet above these trees, the old jump, even though it was a 60-meter jump. It went down farther, and the takeoff was down. See where the 40 and 41 is down here? Calvin, where the number of feet there on the other jump. That's really where the takeoff of the old 60-meter jump was. All of what we're seeing here is all filled. It was, has been built. This has been built up.
It wasn't straight down like that before.
No. And the outrun is exactly where it used to be, except that these bleachers that are now all in a row were in a U shape around the end down there.
Right. Now, what is the green mat for?
Well, it's so they can jump in the summertime. It's a composite.
And it comes all the way up?
It comes all the way up. They come all the way up to here. Of course, on the 90-meter, they don't have the mat.
And this is the way they used to come up, folks, right here. These were the stairs for the jumpers. They would carry their skis up and come up just like this.
Before they built the chairlift.
Yep. And you know, the old, and then people used to stand on either side here and watch. You know, they would. Now, here's what we look at when we see the other way. Oh, first of all, you want to tell us what's down here? That road goes where out that we see there?
That's Riverside Drive. That goes all the way over to Wilmington Road. You can see the airport runway across horizontally there. This is the west branch of the Ausable River here, and Route 73, which goes from McKean to Lake Placid. And the mountains in the distance are the Sentinel Range, which are just to the south of Whiteface Mountain, which we can't see
from here.
because it's
over
all
to the
shrouded in clouds.
Now, when they had the Olympics here, way over in that parking lot on the far side where that yellow car is, they had trailers stacked up, right?
Yes, they did. They had a large bubble building down there in the parking lot, which was the media center, and they had trailers set up for all of the media. In fact, what we had around the end here, where the American state flag are, were two tiers of trailers actually mounted on scaffolding, which were the press boxes.
Right. You know, it won't be too many more hours or days, and I'm going to watch some of my 1980 Olympics over again that I've got home on tape, just to remind me of what I've been talking about today, and just refresh this, because what great memories those were. And here's...
Let's just look at this wood down here for a minute. Now, this was put in 1979.
Yep.
And it's 16 years old. It was pressure treated, but it's just about outlived its usefulness.
Yep.
You see it?
Yep. Well, the weather right on the mountain here is pretty good, huh?
Time is
now, as you look here, look at this from below, then we'll look up. That's the 90 meter.
Right. Right. And again, there are steps going all the way up, and the jumpers did have. They could have walked all the way to the top in those days. Still could if they could get up on the trestle, but we're going to take the elevator. I think.
You got it. And the 70 meter over there. And they can go higher and higher to start to jump, depending on how far they want to go out. Some days, if it's too fast, they don't want them to jump that far.
That's right.
It's dangerous.
On the 70, they have several different starting platforms that they use, but on the 90 it's an elevated, it's mechanized.
Oh, I
so
see.
it actually, that gap up there,
Yes, close it.
it can go all the way up, or it can pull all the way back down, motorized.
Okay. And these are our chairlifts right over here.
We're on the air.
Okay, we're on the air and we're on the way up, folks. This is the elevator on the outside. You can see there's John Brown's. We said we would look for Mrs. Cutter right over there, and she was going to wave to it, but we're here a little later than we expected. So we were over there for our John Brown tour about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And that's the side where we are, and this is where they have the encampment. Right there.
Yes, it is. And this is just like going up in a helicopter.
And this is the encampment right here. We're in one of the tents.
Looks like at night.
Shall we?
Yes.
Go.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we've arrived on top now, and we're looking out in the same direction we were till we got that tent came in front of us. And we'll now give you a perspective. I guess we'll go clockwise or counterclockwise. Let's go counterclockwise. We'll hit Lake Placid last. Okay, let's go left. Tell us what we see over here.
Well, fortunately, it's still possible to see the high peaks over here.
Okay.
If probably
From over here?
this window, we get a better view of it. But down here again is the west branch of the Ausable, and you can see how low the water is this summer. That runs way up into the high peaks. Off in the distance there, just above the highway, is Mount Marcy, and off to the right is Algonquin, the second highest peak in the state. That's about 13 miles as the crow flies from where we stand.
Okay. Now that road is the road we took to get out to the Mount Van Hovenberg,
And
right?
this little mountain over here with the notch on the top, the darkest one,
Yes.
right above the pasture, is Mount Van Hovenberg.
Right there. Okay.
Where the bomb run is.
That's where it was.
Now
All
that
right.
field, you see the field out there where they're cutting hay?
Yes.
That field, of course, as long as it's open, it gives this beautiful vista from the highway. And years ago, the family that owned the farm stopped haying it. And the Nature Conservancy, with the help of a couple of local folks, bought the land, and they cut it every year. Now it looks to me like they're actually cutting hay and they're going to sell it, but the point of them buying it was just to preserve that view, to guarantee that somebody would cut that field at least once a year.
Now there's Girl Scout camps down along those as the road goes down there, correct?
Road goes in there all the way in. The deepest penetration into the High Peaks Wilderness area goes out that road, and there's several large farms out in there.
Now, also on that same road on the way to Keene, that goes to Keene, is the Craigwood Golf Course.
Right. In fact, if you look just to the left a little more, you can just see a couple of the fairways peeking over the hill off to Calvin's.
Okay, yes, over there at 1 o'clock.
Not much. You can barely
Yep.
make it out.
Okay.
Craigwood Golf Courses. I'm getting away from the microphone.
Okay, I understand where you are. Okay.
Now, of course, if you look way down this way, you can see right through the open door to the outside where we can go and get a real hairy view of
And the wind.
ski jump.
And we get the wind too. Okay. This is it here under
Oh, Calvin.
Calvin. Here's a nice picture.
This is what I was thinking. This is during the construction of the jumps. Actually, the most spectacular part of the construction was finished when this was taken. You can see they put forms up here for actually where we are right now is right here. But when they built this, and you can almost make it out, the lines here and the concrete is still curing up here. This from ground to top, 360 feet, was one continuous pour of concrete, and they used a slip form. And as the concrete hardened, the form would just go up and up and up and up and up, and they'd pour it in the top, and by the time the form had gotten, past it, it had cured enough to hold together. All reinforced steel.
This is a well-paid job right here, or should be. There's two people up
A
there.
couple iron workers
Oh,
up there,
my.
you can tell.
Probably Mohawks.
that. And this crane, of course, is about 300 feet right to here
Yep.
on the tower.
Wow.
That was some time, and it was in the fall, so it was getting cold.
Yep.
And again, that was 24 hours a day until they got it up here. I think it was 8 days for this one and 6 days for the
To fill?
for
Is
the-
that
for the
right?
70.
TV's not showing. Oh, they got a hole for your camera. Oh. Picture taken is the name of the game. You see, they've even made a hole now instead of plexiglass, and we're looking at down at the 70-meter. You can see that tower he's talking about. And you say all ported and continuous.
And with except for the four pilasters there,
Right.
the cylinders at the top, everything else was poured continuously.
Yep. Okay, we just moved down to the point here, maybe. We can't get up, but we can get here with the camera, maybe.
We can go through here.
Can we see it better over there?
Better up there. Up on the very top.
Just a second.
Now this is
Okay, we're on. Go ahead now.
this is the moving part here. This whole assembly here can roll up and down with the depending on how fast the jumpers are going and how far they're going.
Okay.
So they can move the start platform continuously from way up here,
Yep.
way up at the top to down where we are.
So it looks like we're always in the same spot, but you may not be because the platform is moving.
Correct.
All right.
And actually, right now we're at the lowest spot that we
Okay.
could possibly be at.
And wow.
Yeah,
This is the lowest spot of the jump
this is the lowest spot of the start.
of the start.
You know, you can start here or even higher.
Yeah, where the little light goes on and off, and that's the highest point.
Yep. Okay. Now the
They'll sit on these.
yes. Yep. They sit on the bar until they get ready to go. Then they just jump off onto the snow.
Yep.
Wow. And you see the lattice works. I guess that's so the snow will hold.
Yep.
Correct?
Right. Exactly. You got to pack.
Let
that
these
snow
people
in.
come by here for a second.
And of
Well,
course,
I don't think I'll do it today.
there's the green and red light. You
Yes.
don't go until the green light comes
Right.
on. Just-
Okay.
We're all familiar with that.
Yep. Now, just figure you're going to get down there. You got to stop. That's my biggest problem.
And unlike a lot of the jumps in other locations, they don't have a big hill to run up on the other side. You know, Calgary, Innsbruck,
Right.
have big hills that you go
Right.
up, and then you
Yep.
kind of stop. Lillehammer and Lake Placid more like the same,
Yep.
like this.
Just think, too, that the difference of winning or losing could be a 1-inch takeoff, where you take off, right?
Oh,
Very, very critical.
Everything. Of course, the speed in the in run, the ability to hold your speed and keep a flat ski in the in run is important, and then the timing of the spring at the takeoff.
Right.
Of course.
Because most people are going the same speed when they get there, wouldn't they? Most of them?
If you're really good,
If you're really good, of
you
course
carry
they-
better speed in the in run. That's really critical.
Yep.
Yeah, depending on how well your skis are waxed and how flat you keep them and how stable you keep yourself, and how well you make yourself aerodynamic.
As you look off to the left, you see the airport, and then, of course, the very famous Lake Placid Horse Show Arena.
And if you see the running track there, that's an 8-lane rubberized asphalt running track. Remember earlier in the program we talked about how the 1932 games had given Lake Placid High School the
Yes.
best running track in the North Country?
Right.
Well, it happened again in 1980. This is undeniably the best running track in the North Country. Plattsburgh States is also of this caliber, but it's about 15 years older than this one.
Is
and
it-
that's where the opening ceremony was held. You can see the
Okay, yes.
Olympic flame tower
Yep.
there.
Is this the high school field now?
It is the high school field. In giving up their athletic field to the speed skating oval, the high school got all of these new ball fields, the 4 soccer fields, 3 baseball fields, and this beautiful running track.
Right.
And that was the legacy the Olympics gave to the high school students of this community.
That big flat building in the trees back there, that was also part of the Olympic?
Yeah, that was the press center.
Okay.
Cost just under $1 million to build, and its after use was intended and still is today to be a combined bus garage and town garage and village garage. So all of the municipal vehicles are cared for and housed in that one combined building.
Uh-huh. Okay. I know what else we can say down here. You just look at this in awe. You have
really
to
do.
look at this in awe.
Yeah. And I don't want to go off it. I tried ski jumping once.
Oh yeah. And remember, there's no sun today because this is just sparkling when there's a sun up here. But it's also I'm out here.
Now I don't know, Calvin, how your telephoto is, but if you see down there in the just below the flags, there's somebody on a trampoline.
Yep.
Now that's the Kodak Sports Park of the freestyle skiing, where they have the pool so they can jump and practice their aerial jumps during the summer, and they land in the water safely.
And that's where they jump right there in that area.
Right in that area, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's a summer and winter training area, and of course the World Championships in freestyle were held here, and we've had World Cup events in freestyle on the hills down there as well. So this is not just for ski jumping; it's also for the aerial portion of the new freestyle event.
Right. And of course, Lake Placid, both a winter and a summer sports complex, really area. Whiteface, way up in the top in the clouds.
Way up in the clouds.
You can
my
see.
wife and my two boys and I stood on the summit there on Saturday a week ago, September 3rd, and it's quite a climb. It's quite a climb. I recommend it highly to anybody who has strong legs, but if you don't try it.
The kind of soil you got here, look at the sand pit over here, completely sand. And again, you see one over there in the woods, a lot of sand here.
Good. Well, of course, this is the valley of the Ausable River. So
right there.
Ausable is a sandy river from top to bottom, and this is no exception right here.
We'll go to the other side and just look in at the village, then we'll continue to our next venue.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, we've been all around counterclockwise just about, and there is your complex.
We're looking back at the old Olympic arena with the silver roof and the new arena with the big white walls and the high school. That's the center of Lake Placid. Rising up on that little hill, Mirror Lake is on the other side.
Right. And Lake Placid way over the other side, right?
Yep.
Way over.
Trees just starting to turn. Anybody interested in taking this trip in the next few weeks, you're going to have some spectacular color to look at in the Adirondacks.
Now, when you see the color, the way out there is another complex. Is that the...
that's the elementary school.
Way out there. Yeah.
That's the elementary school.
And this little...
I'm sorry. No,
that's the Ursuline?
This is the other complex you're seeing there is the Olympic Training Center.
Oh.
Olympic Training Center. The Olympic Training Center, and the largest building is your volleyball.
Is that
court.
right?
And of course, the volleyball has to have a very high ceiling because the ball has to be allowed to go up high on that high arc without interference.
That brings a lot of business to
that's a 60-foot ceiling in the volleyball.
Wow. Now, this new homes here, there's a section of new homes right over here to the left.
Very nice.
Large home going up.
That's beautiful.
Very large. Okay, we're going to go down now, and we'll be at the base of Whiteface Mountain in just a few minutes.
No, come on, stay in the picture.
We got a few raindrops now, but
perspective here.
give you a perspective of how big as the overall area was compared to what we were in. Yeah. You see, this is the actual tower itself.
Right.
In the middle. The others are just the four pillars.
Yep.
And you see where we were first taking a picture of John Brown, we were out 15 or more feet.
Yep. Yep. And this is deceptive too, because the actual building part of it is just from here to here.
Yes.
Because these are all
outside of it, yes. And the elevator's on the back. Yep. And you see how far we were way out over here? Yep. We were way out also.
And you see the lightning rods up there, halfway up?
Yes.
And the ground wires coming down here?
If you're above it, you have no protection.
If we stay right here for a little while, we might see some fireworks, Calvin.
Yes, you could see some right here.
Too bad we can't stay.
Too bad we can't.
What about our elevator operator here? She was in our elevator, yes.
The lady who brought me up.
Yes, the lady who brought her up. Your name?
Oh, my name's Miriam Lawrence.
Well, Miriam, how long have you been doing this?
Oh, almost 2 years now.
Oh, it has its ups and downs?
Oh, yeah, it has quite a few ups and downs. Depends on the day.
Year round?
Year round.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Eddie, what's the slowest day of the week?
Today?
No, I know today means just after Labor Day.
No,
you mean on
it's
Thursday?
usually Wednesday,
Mhm.
Tuesday, Wednesday. But we're waiting for our bus people, which they come to see the leaves.
Okay. What were you doing before you came here? Before you came
Well,
to...
I was retired. I had worked here a year before, and in 1990.
Okay.
And I came back. I missed the job.
You missed the job. You missed seeing people like ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Bob, you're great. Of concrete.
Okay, we're at the relatively the end of the 90-meter jump,
Yeah.
and you're telling us this supports everything.
Well, as you can see, the entire trestle is a set of trusses connected together, and they all rest on this one footing right here in the middle of the lawn, and that supports the whole kit and caboodle.
Right. Now, we talked earlier this morning. You were telling us how you were in charge of the medal awards and so forth. And of course, what is more familiar in Lake Placid during that time than 1, 2, 3 stanchion like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you were there at all of the presentations?
I had to be there because I had charge of the medals, and when they were delivered, they had to be watched over so nobody would steal them.
Okay. Lake Placid, New York. Chris Artloff, Bob Venn, Calvin Castine with the camera. Hometown Cable. Thanks for watching. We're going to Whiteface Mountain. Whiteface Mountain, directly behind us. Who knows all about it? This man right here, Chris Hartloff. You were running back and forth between these venues.
It's a long haul down here when you've got to get a flag somewhere, or a flagpole, or a medal to a certain place, and logistics, transportation was important.
Yep.
Fortunately, I had a car.
Okay, where was your office physically? Your own?
It was in the village on Signal Hill. We actually rented an entire building, and some of the key people on my staff lived in the building during the games, so they didn't have to travel in and out. And we had offices there as well, and a kitchen, and a cook.
Even though you had help, you were physically at all these venues yourself.
Yeah. In
Right.
fact, at this venue right here, the year before the Olympics, we were preparing for the World Cup Alpine events. And we wanted flags up on the mountain, up in the area where you can see the open area there is the finish of the downhill trail. And we wanted that area dressed up with flags, but the night before the event was to open, they still weren't up. And the venue manager, a nuts and bolts guy named Greg Patrizzi, and I spent the entire night on this mountain getting things erected under floodlights. And during the Olympics, it was a little bit easier. But
Now, if we were standing right here when some of the various events took place, could we see any of them right here?
yes, you could see the end of the downhill, and up higher.
The downhill
on
is where the
mountain.
big field is here?
Yeah.
That's the end of it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now, if I don't know how well you can see it, but over here on the left is the new chairlift that was built for the
Straight up
giant
middle.
slalom. Yes.
Okay, we can see it up there.
Now
okay.
that's the new chairlift, and the giant slalom started at the top of that.
Where it goes off to the right.
Mhm.
Okay.
And you see the building there? There's a little gray building off to the right and a
Yes.
little bit below that.
Yeah.
That would be the start of the giant slalom, the men's giant slalom, and the ladies. And then over to the right a little more and down, it would be the start of the slalom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And that you could see it here, but not very well. You'd have to have binoculars.
Okay. Did any of the runs on the right were they used for the Olympics at all?
The downhill, of course, started way up above the clouds on the main mountain. On a clear day, you could see the
way
trail.
up.
Way up, just above the clouds is the start of the men's downhill.
Wow.
And they actually, ABC had a camera back over here, way up on this mountain here, that was able to look across and see the skier all the way down the downhill trail.
Isn't that race, that downhill at that Austrian one that wasn't supposed to race?
Exactly.
That marvelous run he made
It
you
was
see
a
so many times?
wonderful
It
run.
certainly was.
And of course, his country had won the 76 downhill, and he was not expected to win. He was not even supposed to be in the top seed, but he ended up being the winner.
When they gave the medals, were they given here or in the village?
They were all given in the village.
Okay.
Right there on Mirror Lake, on the frozen surface of the lake. We had on average 10,000 people every night, and it was a free event. It was the only free event of the Olympics, and they could all come and watch Eric Heiden and all of the other nationals from Russia and Germany and Japan who won medals there.
Okay. We don't want to take anything away from you with the things that have happened since 1980. But would you like to live those 2 weeks over again? Know what you know today?
That's a hard question.
You know what you know today?
It was awful brutal going through those 2 weeks. I certainly would love to relive the Olympic experience again. But I've been to Sarajevo, which was a wonderful experience before the war started. Calgary. I've had a couple trips down to Atlanta. I'm looking forward to the Atlanta
you're going
Games
there too,
next year.
Yeah.
The Olympics is a wonderful institution created in 1896 by French and English amateur sportsmen. In the 19th century, the athletes were all owned by syndicates, and they put money on them, and they gambled on them, and they'd tell you, Bob, we want you to take a dive today because we want to win on the other guy, and you weren't your own person. You were owned lock, stock, and barrel by people who paid you and housed you and fed you in order to be one of their stable of athletes. It was demeaning, and it wasn't good for sport either. So Baron Coubertin and the people who started the modern Olympic Games said we're going to make an event where people can compete just for the sport of it, where they aren't owned by anybody, and they only compete in free, open competition. Unfortunately, I have to say, their dream has kind of been taken over, and today most of your Olympic athletes are owned, in a sense, by major corporations and sponsors. But still, it's been a great 100 years. The Olympic movement's 100 years old next year, and all I can say is that I'm really proud that Lake Placid and the North Country, Montreal included, have been 3 times. Lake Placid twice, Montreal once, part of this experience.
What's your feeling about the professionalism, professional athletes being able to compete?
I think it takes a lot away from their livelihood, their life. They go where their sponsors tell them to go. They live some of these Eastern European and communist countries. They're taken right from the cradle, and they're trained, and they do nothing but that. I tend to say maybe it could be a little bit better that way, but I'd rather just compete for the pure amateur spirit of it.
Anything else we should know here that you haven't mentioned?
This mountain is part of the New York State Forest Preserve. Every bit of construction on this mountain was approved by the voters of New York in a constitutional amendment. This ski center wouldn't exist if back in 1940 the voters hadn't approved its construction. And yet this is a fine example of the kinds of things that government can do if it sets itself up, as it has with the Olympic Authority, to run like a business. This place can make money, and it has every sign of doing so in the years ahead.
You know, I feel a little bad. We've taken advantage of this man now for a little over 4 hours. He's been very gracious, answering all our questions and giving us of your time. We know you're a very, very busy man. You're not always home. How much are you home from Albany, by the way?
Oh, maybe half the time.
Half the time, all right.
Of course, this is home in that sense.
Oh, okay.
So obviously my family isn't here, but it's a very rewarding experience. I have to say that.
Well, I've enjoyed myself. Hope you people have enjoyed watching and reliving 1980 and just Lake Placid in general. You don't have to be 1980. We've gone way back to this man was just a youngster here in Lake Placid. We've talked about people way back in 32 Olympics, and you've seen most of the sites, what is able to be seen. A couple of them took a ride down the mountain, and Calvin included, and I didn't. And we thank you very much, and hope you'll enjoy watching this and putting it with your memories.
If I can just add one last thing. If you want Bob to take a ride on the bobsled run, send in your postcards, let him know, and I'm sure that if we get enough public demand, that Calvin and I will take Bob back, and if you ask for it, he'll do it. Did I really put you on the spot?
No, not a bit, because we found out that during the Civil War, if you had money, you could buy your way out of the war by getting a representative, and I'll do the same at this time. Thanks for watching Hometown Cable, and remember, we're on every day at 12:30 4:15, 8 p.m., midnight, 8 the following morning, every Sunday. What's going on here? Or I get out and enjoy meeting people like Chris and making a tour at the same time. I had a doubleheader today. And Calvin with the camera does a great job, and I watch it for the first time when you do the following Sunday, because it's a whole different story than what I remember. Thanks for watching. See you next Sunday. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.